Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. Version 4.2 has just dropped its brand new Abyss 12, and let me just say we're back to having a bit more of a challenge in our Abyss 12s. So as usual with these Abyss 12 videos, first I'm going to try to do everything with just a 4-star only team, 4-star only characters, 4-star only weapons, and really this will just show you guys like what are some of the strategies that you can use to approach this Abyss 12. Now, as we can see, the first team that I showcased to you guys is the top half, and it's going to be just your standard reverse vape Xiangling team with Bennett, Xiangling, Sucrose, and Xingqiu. And then the second team is actually going to be an aggravate team, and instead of a lot of people like using Lisa, personally I like using Kuki, but you can use a lot of characters for your second aggravate DPS, but the first one, highly recommend Fischl for sure. So this team just has Yao Yao, Lynette, Kuki, and Fischl as the aggravate team for the second half. Now, once we hop into this Abyss 12, you'll notice that the top half of Abyss 12 just has a bunch of pyro shields. And yeah, this was clearly designed for hydro characters to excel, and this is no surprise. Now, at the very beginning, you'll notice that I actually used Xingqiu to hit the Dendro Samatro, whatever they're called. That way his sacrificial thing will activate. And in this situation with the two wolves as well as the Pyro Abyss Mage, I personally found that focusing down the two Wolf Lords was a bit of a better choice here, because the Pyro Abyss Mage will have his shield broken eventually. I think I just put a little bit of focus on it once the two wolves were, getting low on health. That way we can finish off the two chunky wolves as well as the Pyro Abyss Lector. Pyro Abyss Mage around the same time. Now the second wave is pretty wacky. It's actually quite dangerous because we have a lot of Dendro as well as Pyro just flying everywhere from the enemies, and that means a lot of burning on your team, which, trust me, it lives up to its name. It burns through your HP pools. But really, I'm trying to distribute the damage between these three enemies, and unfortunately here, I highly recommend having Xingqiu try to actually connect with one of the enemies with his elemental skill. That way you are able to refresh its sacrificial sword duration, reset bonus thing, whatever it's called. Cooldown, that's it. And then you are able to just use the rest of your Hydra application to take out the Abyss Lector. Now we can see here that I did pop Xingqiu's elemental burst, which will hurt us in the next chamber, and we did complete it in about 94 seconds. So we're cutting it just a little bit over the 90-second recommendation, but the second half is much easier than the first half, fortunately. So I think I'm going to let it slide in the sense that, okay, having a few extra seconds on the top half is going to be acceptable for this Abyss 12 due to how difficult the top half is in comparison to the bottom half. So the bottom half, you want aggravate, and the reason why is because you will be able to knock this giant Dorito bot out of its stealth mode. As we can see, I applied Dendro and Electro when it was invisible, and pop, there it goes. It just falls onto the ground all crumpled, and we can just apply a bunch of aggravate DPS. Now, there really isn't that much to say about assignment, I believe is what the kids nowadays like to call it, because the algorithm of semi and transient matrix of overseer network, if you shorten it, it is indeed a Simon. But we're just going to go through the standard rotation. Now, what I like about this team a lot is it's got great sustainability, or sustain, since we do have two healers. And if you have Constellation 6 on Kuki, she's also a quick get out of death card. So if you do have a great top half, you have a pretty lenient bottom half with this very comfy team. And what's also nice about this team is that it's fairly energy independent. I mean, the bursts are just kind of the cherry on top and not necessarily necessary for this team. So yeah, with the second half being pretty easy, we did manage to 3-star it pretty comfortably. Now, 12-2-1, we start off with some of these robots here, and personally I like running over here. I think I ran over there a little too slowly. If you actually do it earlier than I did, then you're able to have these two roly-poly robots right next to each other, but it works out just fine because then the roly-poly robot ended up coming to join its friend to die to the infamous Pyronado combo. Now the doggos, they move very slowly and they don't really do anything, but they are much squishier, so we're able to just kind of take them out on accident, or just as a byproduct of that. So yeah, personally I don't really like my approach here for the two big robots, but honestly, as long as you just manage to one cycle them, everything should be okay. And Generally speaking, I think the shield guy approaches you more than the robot girl, I guess. And either way, though, you just kind of split up your damage, have some Xingqiu water swords on them, and then have some of Xiangling's power nados, do some reverse vapes. You see there, my rotation was pretty poor, but we still managed to get the job done. So this one is interesting. Personally, I found the most success kind of sticking near one of the smaller robots to have the bigger robot go, so that way you're always hitting 2 targets. You can see here that I shift over to the other small robot because these small robots don't really like to approach you, but the big robot will approach you a bit more frequently than the smaller robots will. Either way, though, now I think we're kind of at an awkward situation where, okay, do I do another burst cycle in order to take out this, you know, spinning robot with funny wheels on it? And I decide to actually go for that. So, yeah, it is what it is. So that means that for 12-3, we're going to have some energy issues with the top half team. But anyway, we're back to our Aggravate DPS team. Now, you notice that thanks to, you guys are probably familiar with the Jade Plume Terror Shroom, but if you're not, activating a bunch of aggravates and quicken on it will have it freak out, and it will do one of 3 powerful attacks. But this attack in particular, it just kind of shoots out a bunch of projectiles, so if you're a ranged character staying away from it, you will get hit a lot, but if you're a melee character, it's just going to fall into the ground just like this. And that's going to give you plenty of time to beat up on it as the chicken wallows in misery. Now, having having Fischl on field is nice, because you can activate her Ascension passive, the Lightning Bolt thing, whenever Fischl activates Aggravate, but the same can be said for when Kuki's on field as well. She will help activate Fischl's Aggravate thing. But we can see here that this team, very nice and comfy, very simple. You just kind of quick swap through the characters, that way all their buffs and abilities are active, and easy clap for that team. Alright, so 12-3-1, definitely the worst chamber out of all of them in my personal opinion, especially because of the second wave. Now, for this one, I just kind of get the samurai guys to dash closer to the 2 gunner guys, that way I can group them up, while also I had to battery Xiangling because she didn't have her burst, yada yada yada. But anyway, once all the pyros flying everywhere, we can get a bunch of vapes on Xingqiu's elemental skill, which as you can see, just chonk the 2 samurai boys very quickly. You want to kill the 2 samurai guys, you know, in quick succession, otherwise one of them will heal if its buddy dies. Now you can see that I ran over here to this side of the Pyro Abyss Electors. That way its friend will actually move forward very slowly to join it, and this will allow you to clump them up without, let's say, having Venti, right? Venti can do it all on his own, but without Venti, you're going to need to do something like that, like run into the far side of one of the Electors so the other one comes and joins it. Now you want to distribute its damage, so that way you'll end up knocking both the Abyss Electors really close to each other. That way you are able to get more AoE Hydro application thanks to Xingqiu. Now of course Xingqiu is mostly a single target Hydro applicator, but even in this situation he is able to get a lot of valuable multi-activations of Hydro application thanks to the orbiting shield sword things, as well as maybe some stray water swords here and there. But we can also see that I'm actually battering Xingqiu up with other elemental particles, because unfortunately the sacrificial sword will not activate against these guys' pyro shielded versions, because it's not actually doing damage, therefore it won't activate the sacrificial sword. So do keep that in mind as you funnel rainbow particles to Xingqiu, and you know, perhaps even use some healing abilities here and there. But we can see we only had 8:15 on the clock because, yeah, I mean, just destroying the Hydro shields and everything is just bad, and I had to funnel a bunch of energy Xiangling as well, which was not efficient for the first wave. Anyway, I keep talking about that one, but we're back to our Aggravate DPS now. Honestly, this chamber is a bit dangerous. These 2 dancing robots do a lot of damage to you. They do some crazy twirls, they do some crazy swirls, and it's not pretty, but fortunately this is a very tanky and robust team, so you can really just brute force through it with enough healing, which thankfully for Yao Yao as well as for Kuki, we have quite a lot of healing for this team to just muscle through and get a bunch of aggravate. Now you do want to watch out for when I think the dancing robot and that's far away from you starts shooting those giant cryo particle or giant cryo waves. Those will do a lot of damage. As you can see, these things just do a lot of damage, but besides that, they don't really have any other mechanics that are worth noting. Just try to brute force them, or if you're really good, you can, I don't know all its attack patterns and dodge stuff, but we can just see simple, straightforward fight with no shenanigans, just a simple DPS check. So, is there anything else really worth mentioning about this Abyss 12? Well, you want Hydro characters. Honestly, if you have Fiorina, I would use her up here. If you have Child's going to do absolutely great here because he applies so much Hydro, he's going to be able to destroy the Pyro Shields on these enemies. Ayato is pretty solid for this as well as an on-field normal attack spammer, especially once you manage to group the Abyss Lectors in 12-3-1, the second wave. Once you manage to group these guys together, you will have a grand old time with either Child or Ayato. Of course, if you have Fiorina, she's going to do great as well. And of course, Yelan would help a lot, to say the least. So yeah, bring some Hydro characters to the top half. Neuvillette does great. Hydro characters up here, and you're going to have a good time. For the top half, I also think a Nilo Bloom team. I do think Nilo Bloom teams will find quite a lot of success in the top half as well because there's multiple enemies as well as having quite a lot of Hydro application thanks to likely having Nilo plus another Hydro character, which will help you out a lot. And of course, the giant AoE bloom damage is going to absolutely destroy everything because every single wave has multiple enemies as well. Bottom half, again, Dendro plus Electro is all you really need, and then whatever else you want to do, you can run Aggravate team, you can run a Spread DPS team. Well, Spread DPS will struggle a little bit against the Jade Plume, but the Jade Plume is just such an easy enemy that it's likely even a Spread team can take it out pretty effectively. Now, one thing to note is that this Shockwave will obviously work incredibly well, the current Blessing of the Abyssal Moon, with Fiorina because she will drain your entire team, and it's likely that's just going to create a bunch of shockwaves, clearly designed for kind of a more free-to-play friendly approach, assuming you do have Fiorina as one of your characters. Alright, so yeah, do let me know down in the comments below what you think about this Abyss 12. Personally, I think it is significantly harder than the previous couple of Abyss 12s. Largely not necessarily because of the larger HP pools, but because of the multi-phased nature of the Pyro Abyss Lectors, as well as just needing a ton of Hydro to break the Pyro Abyss Lectors' Pyro Shields. And because of that, as well as a slightly increased HP pool overall, and that's not like massively increased, but it is slightly increased, but because of the multi-phase nature of the Pyro Abyss Lectors, which of course we saw 3 of them in total in this top half Abyss 12, this one was noticeably more difficult in my opinion than the previous couple of Abyss 12s. So yeah, do let us know down in the comments below what teams you use to clear the current Abyss 12 if you've gotten around to it already or not, and feel free to ask any questions or provide additional advice down there as well. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to Lose, signing out.
Takashi, 私は探す。